Just gonna wait a few minutes for Noy. She said she's going to be in, so. Shanti online. Bueno, Shanti online. Okay, let's convene the meeting, call the meeting to order. I've asked Rich to start us off with some welcoming thoughts.
Okay, thank you. So Rich Matsuda, I'm the Mauna Kea Observatory's representative on the authority board. So good morning, everyone. We had a good opportunity to talk story last night with the community, the first of at least 4 community talk stories on Hawaii Island that we've committed to hold this year. And I'm reflecting on one of the comments made by one of the community members stating that we should continue to clarify the purpose of the authority, which this person in the eyes of all the public. And I thought that was a really good reminder and a good comment. So today, to open, I wanted to read parts of the introduction of Act 255 to remind ourselves and everyone out there listening and grounding us in our purpose. And so I'm going to quote a few things. Act 255 talks about the polarization between stakeholders on Mauna Kea and local communities and the urgent and unique opportunity to surmount the dichotomy and develop new ways to mutually steward Mauna Kea. And it states the purpose for us as to protect Mauna Kea for future generations and manage the lands contained therein for the purpose of fostering a mutual stewardship paradigm in which ecology, the environment, natural resources, cultural practices, education, and science are in balance and synergy. And so as we go about our work today, I just wanted to remind us of this and our work together to build understanding, heal polarization, and putting the Mauna in the middle and fostering this new paradigm based on balance and synergy is our purpose. So thanks for the opportunity, Chair.
Thanks, Rich. I know that we had one person signed up for public comments, but she's not online. Her testimony was forwarded to all of you a few minutes ago. It is, as noted, it's quite lengthy. So, and I think similar documents have been forwarded and submitted by her previously. I'm not sure if these are all the same documents, but if she comes online sometime before the end of the meeting, we'll let her present whatever she wants to present. With that, we're going to move to the approval of the minutes for the February 8th, 2024 meeting and the February 29th special meeting. So if I could get a motion to approve both and then ask if there are any amendments.
So moved or second.
Thank you. Any amendments to either of the minutes? If not, hearing no objection, I'm going to ask for a vote on both minutes at the same time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. And just to confirm, again, those of you on Zoom are by yourselves. Correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
So much of what is covered in the chair's report was previously covered last night. So I apologize for repeating, but because there may be individuals that were unable to attend last night, I'm going to repeat what we covered last night. But before I do that, I wanted to thank everyone who participated last night, all of the authority members as well as members of the public. I think we had a very good top story session. It's the first of many to come. But I think, one of the not issued, but someone said that, you know, we have to do better, and I agree in terms of communication, but that was one methodology for us to improve communication to the community by having these top story sessions. So thanks to everyone that participated. And we look forward to having additional sessions. So with that, the first chair's report deals with the House Judiciary Committee hearing on House Bill 2692, which is the Sunshine Law. We provided, as you recollect, what that bill would do would give us a little bit more freedom during the transition period to allow us to have conversation with more than one other authority member. We had some opposition to the bill, primarily focused on the bill referring to Ho'oponopono and what is the correct definition of Ho'oponopono, and does it actually fit in this particular situation. Others question whether or not we were trying to be less than transparent. I testified and pointed out two things. One, that we are a working board, and it's very difficult for us to continue to work and put this organization together if we are limited to just speaking to one other authority member at a time. The other thing I talked about was that at some point we are being asked to problem solve and to get some kind of consensus or some kind of agreement on different things that we talk about. It's really hard to do if you can only talk to one person at a time. There were a few questions, but not many. Nothing that really stood out to me in terms of questions. But the committee of the House decided to pass the bill out. 2 members of the committee voted no on the passage. The bill then went to the House of Representatives as a whole and passed out of the House. It crossed over to the Senate, and it was referred to Water/Land Committee, and then subsequently to a joint hearing for the Ways and Means and Judiciary Committee. The Water/Land Committee has not yet scheduled the bill for hearing, and we're hopeful that at some point the chair and powers that be decide to schedule that for a hearing, but we have not had a hearing yet. So that's the report on House Bill 2692. The next report is on the status of Senate Bill 2297. As you recollect, what 2297, the bill attempted to do was to reinsert the Board of Land and Natural Resources above us, and would require us on any matters that any actions that we took that were within conservation lands to get subsequent Board of Land and Natural Resources approval. As you recollect, I objected on your behalf, objected to the bill because I think that this new paradigm that was created with Act 225 sort of requires us to have final decision-making authority on many of the issues that are faced on the summit, as well as the Haleʻohaku area. The bill passed out of, I can't remember if we reported this previously to you, so I'll repeat it if not. The bill passed out of the Senate Water/Land Committees 3-2, with 2 of the 3 who voted in favor voting with reservation. 2 committee members voted no. So with a 3-2 vote, bill came out of the Senate, went to the next referral, which was again a joint committee of the Judiciary and Ways and Means Committee. They never scheduled a hearing. So under the legislative rules, if the bill was to cross over, it had to cross over like 2 Fridays ago. And since there was no hearing, the bill has basically been shelved in this session and is in the joint hearing stage. But because the crossover timeframe was not met, that bill is effectively dead for this session. The third thing that I wanted to report on is the National Science Foundation meeting. Or not the meeting, but the extremely large telescope news report that all of you saw, that the National Science Foundation is run by the National Science Board. The National Science Board took a position that only one of the two telescopes could be funded. And that in their May meeting, they were going to discuss a process, not decide, but discuss a process about how they would arrive at the decision as to which of the two telescopes would be funded. So we don't have any additional information other than what is in the press release of the National Science Foundation press release. The second thing that I raised last night was that subsequent to the National Science Board issuing their position, the Senate, the United States Senate, via an appropriations bill, put in language which stated that they believe that the National Science Foundation Board, the National Science Foundation, should fund both telescopes. So you have competing directions to the National Science Foundation where their board says to fund one, but the United States Senate is indicating that they should fund both. Again, we don't have any additional color or information about what happened at the United States Senate, have that be inserted, but that's the only information that we have. And, you know, we're not directly involved in any of that discussion, but come the May meeting, they'll have to at least create a process to decide how they're going to decide. And I guess at that meeting, they'll have to decide who they listen to. Maybe I don't know what the politics or what the activity is in relationship. So anyway, those are the three things I wanted to update all of you on. There's one other issue, and Jordan, I think this is probably okay, but 4 of our members' term ends on June 30th. We are awaiting governor's message about whether he intends to reappoint our 4 members. So that's just where we are now. We're just awaiting the governor's office. So the 4 members are Kamana, Kalehua, Pomai, and Lanakila. The process, as all of you went through the process last year, once the governor has a message, the appropriate committee, which in this case would be Waterland, would be having hearings for the confirmation of these nominees. I'm not sure what the deadline is where the governor's message has to be sent down, but has not been. Subsequent to the creation of this memo, Ben Kuro, who is part of a separate governor's message, his confirmation hearing was held, and it was described to me as a love fest where everybody loves Ben. So it was unanimous agreement that Ben cannot leave us and has to be punished and stay with us for a long time. So anyway, the reality is that he has been confirmed. And I'm not sure, Ben, if there's a time frame for your confirmation, or is it just subject to the chair of the board of regents?
It hasn't been scheduled before the Senate, I think, so I'm just waiting for a word.
Yeah, okay. So the other thing that is kind of weird is that between the time that Ben's hearing got scheduled and the actual hearing, the chairman of the board of regents was not confirmed and resigned. So at the hearing, the vice chair had to come in and say, I hereby appoint Ben again to be the board of regents representative. So anyway, it's very convoluted, but nonetheless, Ben came out of his nomination came out of the committee, and pretty confident that he'll pass the Senate. Okay, so with that, again, I wanted to again thank everybody for the hearing, but I mean, for the meeting last night and to remind us that we'll probably have another top story session probably in May. With the idea that at that session, John DeFries will be on board. I will introduce John DeFries and have community dialogue with John DeFries. We'll start sending out doodles to make sure when people are available. But I think like I said earlier, the talk story session was well received both by the authority members as well as community members. And I think it was very helpful to everyone. So that's going to be the next session. So moving to the next item, which is the administration, the report on John DeFries onboarding. I mentioned last night that we had originally intended for John to start on March 20th. Unfortunately, he received a jury duty notice either for the 19th or the 20th. So he has to report to court on the 19th or 20th to potentially serve as a juror. Because of that, we thought that rather than him starting and then becoming potentially a juror, that it'd probably be better if he just started in April. So he's probably going to start on April 3rd as our executive director. We're still finishing up some of the paperwork that has to go through the DLNR HR department. Okay. Next, report on status of other MKSOA personnel positions. We have, as you recollect, 5 positions, executive director being one. We'll also have a program director position, administrative service officer position, and 2 not specialists, program specialists.
Project director and then 2 program specialists.
Program specialists. We've already started posting the program director and the administrative service officer. We received several, I don't know the exact count because I wasn't able to check this week, several applications for both of those positions. We're going to start posting the other 2 positions shortly to start seeing. My belief, and I would leave it to anyone for comment, is that since we now have an executive director, my belief is that the executive director, it's be his responsibility and his kuleana to start hiring staff. That we as board members generally should not be involved in that because he has to put together the team that he feels can effectuate your direction, as authority board members' direction. So one of the reasons for already posting it is that we wanted to have a pool of applicants, hopefully, that he can start acting on quickly as soon as he comes on in April. So we're moving forward with all of that. Finance, again, this is more informational, and this just happened 2 days ago. As you know, the state is in a pretty severe budget crunch.
Hey, John, sorry, was there anything agendized for finance?
No,
Okay, yeah, if it's not,
I'm gonna tell him anyway. I don't care. If somebody wants to sue me, put it sue me.
Can we amend?
We can move to amend if it's not gonna have any
Yeah.
substantive
Well,
impact.
I'm not gonna ask anybody for any, I don't get this. I don't get why it's not, if I'm not asking for any vote, why I cannot tell them something that's very significant.
it's for purposes, I mean, because the public needs an opportunity to make comment on what we're speaking on, so. You
Yeah,
can
but
move.
how do I do that other than amending the agenda? How do I do that if it just happened 2 days ago?
And it doesn't get included. I mean, that's the problem. There's a timing issue here. But we can amend the agenda to include it.
Yeah, so long as it doesn't affect a substantial amount of people, which
Well, I don't know if it does. That's it.
I think it won't because it's an announcement only, right?
Yeah, I just.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we can move to amend the
All right.
agenda. I'll make the motion.
Okay, so the motion would be to amend the agenda to allow, information regarding the state budget process.
Second,
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay, sunshine is gonna kill me. So 2 days ago, we got notice that the state Ways and Means Committee was going to slash $9 million from our current 23-24 budget. Because of, I think this was not communicated, but this is what my belief is, that because of the budget crunch as it relates to the Maui wildfire and the resulting monies that have to be sent to Maui, that they're looking for available monies. So they asked us what impact that would have and what monies we believe we would like to keep. So in working with West Machida and Poa'ena, we came back and itemized items that dealt with both operations as well as consultants. And I think we came up to like, we needed $4.2 million, which would be $1 million over what they were going, $1 million more than what they were going to cut. Right, so let me explain it better. So instead of $9 million, we're telling them they can cut $8 million with the $4 million. So that was submitted to DLNR fiscal office. And I think they are combining all of the DLNR, and Brian can, if he's aware.
Yeah.
They're combining all of that and have forwarded that to the Ways and Means Committee. And I'm not sure what the process is with that. I think there is some kind of negotiations that have to occur between the departments and the Ways and Means Committee, and also subsequent finance. So I just know that we're trying to reserve enough monies to hire our consultants and get that off the ground. And most of that money deals with consultants. The biggest item that we reserved on was for our consultant to help us with the master plan. But we put that together. We had like 3 hours to kind of, or maybe less, to put that together, going back and forth with Wes, Poa'ena, and myself. So anyway, just an FYI, we should anticipate that this crisis on Maui and the resulting fiscal situation is going to continue to impact us for the next couple of years, is my belief.
Just to add, so, and to confirm actually, so the exercise for DLNR was 10 to 15%. There are 2 different scenarios, and they were both submitted to the Ways and Means. Sorry, Ryan Kapolai, speaking, but yeah, so that was combined with the authorities as well and submitted.
Right, so each, and we're not being singled out, just to make it clear, we're not being singled out. Each of the different divisions or associated agencies have been asked to make similar cuts.
Yes.
And I would assume that similar cuts have been asked of all departments across the state. Just to clarify that we're not being targeted by anyone, but just because of the overall crunch. All right, any questions on that?
Yeah, can I just get a clarification? So the fiscal year for which the cut would happen would be from when to when?
25,
Okay,
fiscal year 2025,
got it.
the upcoming, because budget is by biennium, and so we're entering the second half of the
Second.
biennium.
Okay.
Okay. With that, I'm gonna turn it over to Greg. For the operational update from CMS.
Hello, board members, good to see you all. I have several items to go through, update you folks on today. More than willing to take questions as I'm going through it, but it might be more efficient if I could complete the report and then come back for questions. First item is in your board meeting materials, you received a write-up for a project being requested by the Very Long Baseline Array Telescope. This is to replace a GPS antenna on its building. If you've had time to read through the write-up, you'll note that it's a project that we have classified as a type A project. So we are bringing it forward here for your informational purposes only. As I understand, you folks will review and approve type B and C projects, but A projects are presented for your information. The project does comply with or fall under an existing classification of HAR 135-22, which is a minor repair or like-to-like replacement. So it does not require any permits from OCCL, Office of Conservation Coastal Lands. The use of the GPS system is to help synchronize its data calibrations with DLBA is part of an array of 11 telescopes across the United States and US Virgin Islands. So the GPS allows them to ensure accurate synchronization and calibration of their observations across all the sites. It's pretty straightforward. Not sure if folks had any questions, but we can come back to them at the end after I completed my update. Second project is I wanted to provide an update on the underground fuel storage tank replacement project. This is a project that I previously briefed the board on. So I'm wanting to provide an update to keep you apprised of the project status. So as a reminder, under HAR 11280.1-21, we are required to close our current underground fuel storage tanks by July 2028. That's per our Department of Health permit when new tank requirements will apply. Our existing tanks will no longer, the specifications will no longer meet those new requirements. Currently, we have 3 fiberglass underground fuel storage tanks, one 12,000-gallon diesel tank, a 7,000-gallon gas tank, and then another 3,000-gallon gas tank. Our plan is to downsize the entire system based on needs, and we'll replace it with a single 10,000-gallon above ground tank divided into a 7,000-gallon section for diesel and a 3,000-gallon section for gas. It will have an attached dispensing station, and the new tank will be installed on previously disturbed ground. We are working with our engineering consultants to refine and finalize the design of the system while keeping the MKOs and MKSOA apprised. Currently, the costs are estimated to be around $2.4 million, which will be shared among the MKOs. The project will be reviewed for preliminary budget approval by the MKOs next week and final approval in June. Because we do not have an approved budget for the project yet, it's not yet ready for review by our advisory groups, but we anticipate bringing it forward this summer after the budget has been approved. The review process will involve first our environment committee, then Kahukumauna, and finally NKMB. After that, we will bring the project forward to MKSOA for your review and approval. I have recommended to John that either in your April or May board meeting, I provide a more detailed update of the project so you have a good understanding of what it will entail prior to bringing it forward for your final review. And I'm sharing, as I said, I'm sharing this update to keep you apprised, and also to gather your input and clarify any questions you may have at this point on the project, as well as the schedule for reviewing the project. I do want to emphasize one thing about this project. This project is different than other projects in that it will be an asset owned by UH, which presumably will be transferred to MKSOA as part of the transition. As such, consistent with our joint management roles, I have also recommended that MKSOA designate someone to participate in our planning meetings for the project and other major matters. I realize that you folks are still staffing up and having someone to participate in those discussions, especially many major ones like this, would be helpful to ensure the authority's interests are factored into the final project. Briefing the board, is fine, but it's not the most effective or efficient way to fulfill, I think, our joint management roles. Moving on, the MKSOA Long-Term Transfer Working Group. As you know, the purpose of the working group is to develop a plan for the transfer of assets and liabilities from CMS to MKSOA. This includes our permits, leases, subleases, legal obligations, physical assets, real property, etc. We have completed our inventory of all leases, permits, legal obligations and contracts, physical assets and real property. That inventory has been shared with the working group. We held an initial organizational meeting on March 7th, which was chaired by Ben Kudo. I'm going to assume that Ben will brief you on that meeting, so I'm not going to cover it here. But it was a good meeting to get sort of everyone on the same page in terms of how at least a concept of a plan of how we move forward. Decommissioning Hokukea, the project is in final stages, getting ready to mobilize. We have conducted a pre-construction safety and cultural briefing with Sakota contractors that was done last month. The contractor has been finalizing pre-construction submittals for our UH facilities group. The target date is to start at the end of March. They were initially looking at the 21st or later, but that might be pushed back a few days. We will find out more this afternoon. We have a project team meeting. With the Caltech submillimeter observatory decommissioning, the transformer that was located in the building on the property, the utility building on the property, was removed by HELCO on February 29th. Again, we conducted a cultural and safety briefing for the HELCO crew. It was a large crew, about 25 people. According to our construction monitor, the job went very smoothly without a hitch, and everyone returned from the Mauna safely. Construction to remove the dome and the foundation is scheduled to restart in April. Goodfellow Brothers is preparing now to remobilize. We don't have a specific date yet. Next item I have is, I know that John provided an update for you folks at your last meeting on some work that we are wanting to pursue with Kahukumana. Just to give you a bit more background on that. So we are working with Kahukumana to develop a plan for updating our management actions and pertaining to our cultural resources. There are recommendations stemming from our annual historic site monitoring program that we want to address. There are actually some conditions in the TMT permit pertaining to cultural matters that we want to address. And we have a need to look at additional site protection measures due to an increase in recreational activities surrounding certain sensitive areas. So the review that we want to do would be to look at how can we update and improve those management actions articulated in our management plan so that we can address some of these issues. The review will also include our inventory of cultural artifacts that Kaleo has prepared. That is also included in the inventory we sent over to the working group. And we want to develop a plan on how those should be curated, displayed, and or returned to their original sites. These are data that artifacts that were collected as part of the data recovery when with the original archaeological inventory and survey was done. SHPE will have a role in that as well. So Nahua and I are working on a scope of work to hire a consultant who can help us. I understand the board, MKSOA has expressed an interest in participating in this process. I think that would be an excellent way to further develop our joint management roles. It will require some time and commitment, but certainly want to integrate MKSOA in whatever manner is deemed appropriate from your folks' perspective into that process. We haven't completed the scope of work yet, so we're not ready to issue an RFP. And lastly, on our education and outreach programs. So our outreach program continues to grow. It has really helped a lot having a dedicated person, Kaleo Pilago, who you folks have met, serving in that role as our education and outreach coordinator. Last month, we hosted the Rotary Club's Youth Leadership Camp. They have held it in the past at KMC, but this year they held it at Halepohaku. That was an excellent program. They have their own curriculum, and we kind of support it with some Aina-based learning activities and a variety of other things. And then also last month, we hosted the First Nations Futures Leadership Program at Halepohaku. And Noe and I both participated in a panel discussing Mauna Kea, which I think was received and very, very well. Both programs have their own curriculum, as I said, so we just provide additional education and service experiences during the program, purpose of which is to build the participants' understanding of the Mauna and a little bit of what CMS does. This month, we are hosting, I think it's next week actually, the UH Hilo Bonner program, which is another civics and leadership development program. And last week, we were supposed to host the faculty from the Kipuka Native Hawaiian Learning Center, but we had to cancel due to weather. They wanted to come up to learn about our Aina-based learning opportunities that may be available for their hawana. Last week, Paleo and team also participated in a STEM education program at Kanuoka Aina Charter School in Waimea. They were asked to come in and share what our stewardship responsibilities involve on the Mauna. Based on that event, several kumu from the school have expressed interest in also learning about our Aina-based learning opportunities for their haumana. So Kaleo is following up with them to explore common interests and learning opportunities. I expressed my appreciation to Omai last night about inviting Kaleo and the team to come in and talk about some of the other kinds of educational opportunities that exist up there. So it's more of the kind of things that we want to be doing. And lastly, our stargazing program at the visitor information station continues to receive strong interest. We do it by reservation only as a way to limit participation and manage the size. There has been an overwhelming interest by visitors in particular about that program. So we are piloting a special offering for Kama Aina only, starting with our CMS staff and family members. And our plan is to grow that Kama Aina only component as our resources allow. So that completes my operations update for this month. Happy to discuss any questions or comments.
Any questions on any of the subjects that Greg just updated us on?
Yes, Greg, this is Doug. Just so I understand, the idea of identifying someone from essentially the authority until we perhaps have more staff to participate in some of the project gatherings. Could you maybe provide a little bit more detail and what the anticipated time commitment might be for something like that?
Well, we can certainly limit it to those things that would be of most importance to the authority. But for example, our project teams that are working on decommissioning or the underground fuel storage tank or whatnot, you know, we have regular meetings, weekly or bi-weekly, something like that, for an hour. That will start to drop off as the project actually gets implemented. I think the larger time commitment would be for the work we want to do on our cultural resource management plan update. I think that's where there's likely to be a larger commitment required. I don't have a good feel for that. I anticipate that process by itself will take the better part of the rest of this year.
So Doug, on the fuel tank issue, I want to talk with John and then present to the board whether it's a more structural kind of issue for me as to our involvement and what level of our involvement is on the fuel tank design, on the design itself. There's no question that we want to be involved in approval of the final project. But I have some questions about that from an organizational structural standpoint, how this works in that process. So we'll get back to to the board on that.
Great. And the other part of this is that to the extent that there's that you're holding these, that you're having these meetings, are they hybrid or are they for the most part just in person?
Mostly hybrid, mostly virtual. We have had a couple of in-person meetings with the engineering consultants recently, but mostly we can do it either way.
Thank you. Ben.
Greg, in regard to the fuel tanks, was there an EA/EIS required?
There will be an EA required.
EA, okay.
Yeah.
Have you started on the work?
No, because we don't have an approved budget yet. That budget still has to be approved.
Okay. Is that included within your time frame for the project being completed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I ask a question of something that wasn't on your topic list? In regard to the the last time we were talking about the licenses to the tour operators. Is there any update on that?
No, I don't have an update on that yet. With everything else going on, we've kind of had to slow down on that, and we're relying on some resources at UH System to help us with that, and they've been busy with other things as well.
Okay, thanks.
Greg, I have a question, please. Your cultural resource management process, how often does the Kahukumana group meet?
They meet monthly.
Okay, and then, okay, so I presume that when you talk about our involvement or whoever gets involved from the authority would participate in those monthly meetings?
Yeah, I would want to try to use those monthly meetings as much as possible for the work with the consultants. They're all volunteers, so we try to limit how much time we ask of them, as you folks know. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. One last question is the inventory you have of artifacts and the consideration of how they're disposed or where they go. Is that something that can be shared with us as well?
I think so, but I think, Ben, I don't know, if we've gotten clarity with the working group on how that information is going to be shared.
What information is that you're talking about?
Noy is asking about the inventory of cultural artifacts, but we had a brief conversation at the organizational meeting about handling of information in general.
So Noy wants to know whether or not that is one provided to the authority and then the distribution within the authority, just as it relates to the cultural artifact inventory.
To tell you the truth, we haven't reached that level of detail. I can tell you that the approach that we'll be taking is to take up the more difficult and problematic inventory items first, toward the easier ones, at the latter part. So we've chosen to take up the permits and licenses and leases as the first tranche of assets that we'll be analyzing and making recommendations on. I'm not sure when the cultural artifacts will come up, but I'm certainly aware of the complexity of those issues. Is there a specific issue that you were thinking about in terms of the transfer of those, Noe?
Well, I just would suggest that somebody from the authority, whether it's me or Lanquila or someone else, be involved in that discussion before action is taken.
Oh,
You know, so
yeah.
it's not, it's not all done and then we're told about it
No,
after.
no.
after.
We're
No,
a working
wait,
group. We're a working group. and
We're getting things mixed up here, okay? What Kahu Kumana is going to do, and I think what Noino is referring to is Kahu Kumana, without involvement of your transition group, is going to start reviewing these cultural
Okay.
aspect and deciding what to do with various items. So she's asking to be participating in that part, not
Okay.
necessarily your transaction group.
Yeah, we welcome experts that want to weigh in on the treatment of various assets and liabilities. So if that group is willing to look at it first and make recommendations, we'll consider those as well. I mean, more help, the better for us. And our group doesn't make decisions. Well, the only decision we're making is whether we recommend to the authority and to UH's Board of Regents as a joint process to either accept assignment or not accept assignment. I mean, that's the kind of only decision making that we would be making.
Okay, so I just want to clarify my request for Greg that the work that Kahukumona is doing, however it's tied into the overall inventory transfer structure, the work specifically on the cultural artifacts that are in possession of the Center for Mauna Kea Stewardship and their disposition be something that we on the authority are interested in understanding and participating in. Thank you. That's all I'm saying.
Totally agree.
Okay. Other questions for Greg in terms of his update? All right, if not, thank you, Greg. Yeah, appreciate your update. Appreciate you coming last night also. Yeah, okay. I don't think we have anything for executive session. Unless somebody believes that we need an executive session. If not, our next meeting is on April 11th at 10 a.m. The second announcement is just, we put it on the agenda, but it was for last night. So anyway, keep that in mind. Like I said, we're going to send out a doodle to figure out when in May all of you can have the second community talk session. And part of the reason for doing it early is that, rightfully so, we got some type of criticism, rightfully so, that we didn't adequately publicize. So I want to get that started early. Okay, any other announcements? Not, if I could get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Give me a
Second.
second. All right, all those in favor? All right, thank you, everybody. Motion carried. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time last night too. That was really worthwhile.